in his organizing of this event. He asked me to speak to the word reconciliation. I had spoken to several years ago. He and I had an opportunity in a forum to speak about what we felt reconciliation was. And so I thank him for this opportunity this afternoon. Protocol having been established, I will still say, during such a ceremony, I believe that we are all dignitaries celebrating a wonderful life here on this earth. We are here today to commemorate and celebrate the life of an iconic leader, to some a brother, to many a friend, but to all an inspiration. The former South African President Nelson Mandela. On behalf of the Bermuda government, I join with you in expressing our deep sense of loss at his passing. His lifelong struggle against the forces of repression and darkness embodied the very best of the human spirit. Although we mourn his departure, we can also celebrate the meaning of his life and draw strength and encouragement from his example. A man who unjustly endured 27 years in prison, being allowed only one visitor per year. Yet, he chose, after many years, not to be bitter. He was an inspiration to people everywhere. He inspired a traumatized and divided nation to turn towards peace instead of war, toward forgiveness instead of retribution. He was a man whose actions and words set a better example for a better world. He galvanized his uncommon gift of making people want to do better, to be better, and touched us all. He saw more completely than most the flaws in human nature and sought more consistently and effectively than any other voice of his time to overcome them. He was once quoted as saying, reconciliation means working together to correct the legacy of past injustice. Reflecting on that impact and on the impact of the example of this great man in my life, I understand the potency of reconciliation to correct the legacy even of my own past. My father was a brilliant man, but a man who, unlike Mandela, chose a different path to deal with the injustices that life presented him. I watched as my mother struggled to raise two young kids, myself and my sister, as my father went further and further into his own world, shutting out the realities that were facing him. Living life without it. I recall very clearly of the pain and animosity that I allowed to build up between myself and my father. I had felt the world had dealt me a bad hand. As I watched my friends who had a father who was able to contribute in so many ways. And yet I allowed that anger to build up year after year. And I allowed the pain to continue on. I simply couldn't find a solution because I had drowned myself into the cards that I believed the world had handed me. Before my father died, however, as I reflect on the life of Nelson Mandela, reconciliation, I found a way through God to reconcile my relationship with my father. I brought him years later as an adult man with a family. into my life and to live with my family, and was able to enjoy a relationship that I had longed for so many years. While our reconciliation was not being played out on a world stage as in South Africa, the potency and the importance of it cannot be denied. Nelson Mandela's legacy will forever challenge each one of us to choose the path of reconciliation over bitterness. Nelson Mandela, a just and righteous man, surely he was touched by God. May he live long in our hearts. And in closing, I remember the text. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever should believe in him would not perish but have everlasting life. And I think of the life of Nelson Mandela. He was a son that God gave us. His life a testimony on what true brotherhood is about. May his life live on in you.